Man, it feels good to be living eternally. I'm forgiven without a care in the world. Just catch me coasting and dipping, catch me moving around. I love exploring this world, in and out of my town. I walk around.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Dat Postmill Podcast, where the games are made up and the points don't matter. Or in this case, the episode doesn't matter, because it's just Colin and I again, and we're going to talk about me. So feel free to just skip ahead to the end where we say, check us out next week, and have a good week.
Yeah, well, I think it was your idea, right? To do sort of a get to know, sort of a, well, but to do a get to know your host thing, because people don't necessarily know very much about us, and it might be helpful,
right,
to get to know us a little bit.
I thought of a good name. We can call it Gorilla Host.
Gorilla Host?
No, it sounds like that. Grill a host.
Grill a host. Oh, yeah. I thought you meant like guerrilla warfare, and I was
I'm stealing it from is it the Unbelievable podcast with Justin Brierley. I haven't listened to him in 5 years, but I think he had I don't know if he still does it, but it was like a grill an atheist, or it was grill a Christian or something like that. They would bring atheists on to grill the Christian.
Ask questions. Oh, that's interesting.
So, yeah.
So how have you been, Dustin?
Pretty good. It's been really hot up here in Minnesota. I don't know what it is. If it's with age, I'm just becoming more accustomed to the Canadian style winter. But it was like 80s and humid, and as soon as we go outside with the kids, I'm like, let's just go back inside and sit in the air conditioning. I don't know. And maybe if I lived somewhere that was hot all the time, I'd get used to it. And I know I'd like it if I'm by water, by a lake. But just being outside, I don't like the heat right now.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
How, what kind of, high 80s, mid 80s, low 80s? I mean 80s is hot.
It got
enough,
up to high 80s, but even mid 80s, when it's just the sun beating down on you,
especially when it's humid.
Yeah, and you walk out and you're already wet and you're just sweating and smelling just because it's instantly hot. Yeah, not good. I don't know. I've been to Minnesota too long, I guess.
Yep. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. What's California like? I mean, this time of year.
It's pretty hot,
painful.
But it hasn't been as hot as some summers. I guess it usually gets, especially in the high desert, it tends to get hotter towards the end of summer. So August tends to be the hottest month.
Yeah.
But it's actually not been as hot as it has been in the past. I think it got over 100 maybe once so far, which usually it gets up over 100 for a couple weeks at least.
Oh yeah.
And I'm living in a city that's not quite as hot as where I was before.
Okay.
But I mean it's been like high 80s. Maybe mid 90s in the hottest part of the day, but it's not too bad.
Man, I don't know. I would have to a coworker of mine is moving to Arizona this week. And I'm like, oh man, that'd be so nice. Go down south. But I was thinking about it, like, yeah, I don't know if I could live in Arizona. And I was like, the only reason I would move to Arizona is if I could get a job at Apologia. If I got a job there, it might be worth going there. So maybe if they ever need another digital guy, that's probably the only reason I would ever move to Arizona.
Yeah, I think the Arizona tends to be similar to where I'm at. In weather, except that they get thunderstorms and we hardly ever do, and they have monsoon season. So when it gets hot there, it's dry heat sometimes, and other times it's like the muggiest heat that you've ever been in, and it's really, really, really hot.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of muggy, but I love thunderstorms. We had one last night it was like ripped up trees and bleachers at the Brainerd International Speedway up here. It just tore apart all over northern Minnesota. But
so you were excited about that?
Oh, it was awesome. I love thunderstorms. I love laying in bed, head next to the window, and you can just hear it. Just the thunderstorm, the thunder and lightning. Oh yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool to get thunderstorms down here when we do, because it's just rare. I think there was one time that a thunderstorm rolled over the mountains, and I'm just south of the mountains and lower in elevation from on the other side of the mountains, and so I did a video took a video on my phone for a minute or so, but it was like there was lightning actually occurring rather frequently, and we just never get that here. People were freaking out. It was pretty fun.
Wow. Yeah, I pity you. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get started. We need to get to know Dustin because last week apparently was get to know Colin, and I was not aware of this. So
Yeah.
let's get to know Dustin.
Get a drink or something. This isn't going to be very interesting.
No, it's going to be awesome. So how long have you known the Lord?
You know, I honestly don't know. I think I've gone back and forth on it. I'm pretty sure I got saved, maybe in like 8th grade, 9th grade, somewhere in there. I think probably 8th grade. I grew up in a family that didn't go to church regularly. My mom's sister's family, so my aunt, uncle, and them, they all went to church regularly. And the only thing I remember is maybe once or twice a year going to their church. It's a big mega church in the cities. Very word of faith. You might have heard of, anyone in the cities knows of it. It's Living Word. Mac Hammond. He has the Winner's Way on TV every Sunday. I don't know if it's still on, but probably. Huge church, but that's all I remember is going to that periodically growing up. And I don't know if it was just my mom felt like it was a good environment to bring us into, just to, listen. But I didn't grow up going to church for the first half of my life. My mom was, so my parents are divorced. That's why I keep referring to my mom. My dad's still in my life, but I grew up with my mom. So my mom definitely was, taught us morals, right from wrong. She understands what's good and what's wrong, just as we know through Romans 1 that everyone knows that. And that's pretty much most of what I had growing up until we moved. We lived about an hour north of the cities, north of St. Paul in Minnesota here. And we moved down to White Bear Lake, which is just a northern suburb of St. Paul, when I was in between 6th and 7th grade. And at that point, moved here, and we rented out one of our rooms in our house to a young lady. I think she must have been maybe 20 or so at the time, and she invited us to go to her church down the street. And we went a few times, and then my mom stopped attending when I kept going. When we first started going, she forced me to go to the youth group, which I did not want to go to at all. I didn't know anybody in this town, so I just really did not want to. But as soon as I started going, of course, it's a non-denominational Baptist church. It was lots of fun and games, so the youth group was easy to connect to people, and so I liked it right away. And then at that point, my mom stopped going, and then it was just me, and I kind of took the initiative to go on my own, got rides to church on Sunday, and it was made a lot of good friends, and so it was really important in my life at the time because I didn't know anybody in the area. But then, within a year, probably just hearing the gospel and all that, got baptized. I was baptized Lutheran as a baby. We can save that debate for another show, whether that was a legitimate baptism or not, and I should have been rebaptized, but not knowing anything, of course, I don't even, honestly, I don't know why, but I don't even remember necessarily praying a prayer, like having a certain point where that happened. I'm sure I did, but my youth pastor baptized me, and just at that point, I just was connected in the church. There's a time when I when I stopped going for maybe like a year or so, I just got different friends and kind of fell into the wrong crowd. The Lord definitely blessed me with keeping me out of, drugs, alcohol, all that kind of scene. So that's good. But I mean, yeah, there was about a year where I just didn't go, and you hang out with friends who just they don't know the Lord, they don't talk about that stuff, and run around at night and whatever, just do stupid kid stuff. But then eventually I started going back again, and that's kind of when I started growing in the faith more. Early stages of meeting my now wife and that relationship growing and moving churches and all that stuff. So I didn't grow up in the faith, but I've known the Lord for, probably about 15 years now, I would say.
You're so old.
I'm 30. I turned 30 a few months ago, yeah. I feel old, but I'm young.
So how did you meet your wife?
So her family started going to the church. So this church that I went to, that non-denominational church, I went there for, 10 years maybe. Her family started going to that church. And my wife, she's got a fascinating story, but they lived in Mexico for a while as missionaries. And when they started going to our church, her dad offered to take our youth group down to Mexico to where they used to do mission work on a mission trip, just to, do the typical, bring a bunch of toys and things for the kids and help build half a wall in a church and, whatever, help the kids. So we did that. And that's where I met her, just in like the planning, the car washes and the making signs, and I think we did like a Mexican night where we made tacos for everybody to raise money and all those fun things. So that's where we met, and just kind of became friends in the process. Me, her, and then my best friend at the time, still my good friend. But the three of us kind of clicked, and we hung out all the time, and especially after we got back from the mission trip, that's when we started. I think we started dating like a few months into that fall year, which was our senior year. And then, so we started hanging out, and that's when we officially started dating. We broke up for about a year, I think, year and a half after high school, and then got back together again, just remained friends. And then, that's just, after that, about a year later, we got married. So her family actually left that church that they started going to, the one I grew up in, not long after we got back from the mission trip, just some conflict issues. And obviously, once we were planning on getting married, kind of had that conversation of, obviously we need to be going to church together, and I don't want her to feel uncomfortable going to the church that I grew up in, and we wanted to be together. And I took 1 year in Bible college, but I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, and that's when I started learning theology. And it was at that point where I started changing my views on things and saw things differently than the church I was going to, and so it was a good time to look elsewhere. And so we started. I read a book by John Piper in that college, so we're like, hey, let's go check out Bethlehem Baptist. Went there, just fell in love with it, loved it. Didn't know anything about Calvinism, so that was kind of my introduction. Yeah, we both just loved just listening to him every Sunday and learning and growing, and that started our Reformation. We met with some friends who talked to us about infant baptism at the time, because when we got pregnant and got married, they're like, hey, have you ever thought about this? And I was like, no, I'm not Catholic. Why would I baptize my baby? So I met with them to talk about it, and it made sense. And at that point, we just kept reforming, and we just didn't stop. So eventually we had to leave to find a PCA church. And
you stopped reforming after you went to a PCA church?
No, we still continue reforming, because now I'm post mill and all these other wonderful things. I don't know when it'll stop. So
okay, cool. So you ended up learning about Calvinism while you were at John Piper's church?
Yes. Yep.
And what was the next theological step in the Reformation? Paedobaptism?
Yep. So we just going there with straight Calvinism, and then when we got pregnant, this mentor, family friend of ours, couple that we just absolutely love. They're wonderful people and still in our life today. Been blessed by them immensely. He grew up in the PCA. His dad's a PCA elder, and so he was just asked one day when we were just hanging out in a small group of families get together. He's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about this?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Would you want to meet to talk about it?" And I was like, "Oh, sure," because I trust him. He's a very, very godly man, and we've learned a ton from him and his wife and how they raise their kids. So I think it was maybe 2, maybe 3 mornings, Saturday mornings at Caribou, and I took a lot of notes and studied up, and it really wasn't, I don't know, it was a drawn out process, maybe a month or 2, just because I didn't study it consistently, but the more I, read up on it, and it just seemed to make sense. It's funny because one thing I went to was the Sproul-MacArthur debate, and everyone on each side is like, "Oh yeah, MacArthur totally beat him." And everyone says, "Oh, Sproul totally beat him," depending on what side you're on. But that was a big one for me. It actually helped me a lot. Just the way he clarified things, and just simple things like, Pastor MacArthur, I don't know if you called him John, we were at the table, and he made a comment that he was the only man at the table who believes in believers' baptism, and he was joking, but he was like, "I gotta call him out because he was lying, because we all believe in believers' baptism, and we just also believe in baptizing infants of believing parents." So little things like that just help clarify things, and what is baptism? It's a sign of Christ's work. It's not a sign of something that you've done, an action that I've made. So just looking at things differently. So that actually, the way his talk in that, I guess it wasn't a formal debate, but that helped a lot. So that was definitely the first big step. And then from there, I just was loving anything Reformed. Got into a lot of podcasts and stuff.
How did you get into postmillennialism?
Actually, from them too. Eschatology must have just come up. We have the small group we meet with, my family, them, and then another young family that they mentored. The three of us get together maybe once a month. And I'm assuming eschatology just came up once. And it might have been around the time of the evening of eschatology that Bethlehem College and Seminary hosted, where Piper moderated. It was Doug Wilson for post-mill, Sam Storms for a-mill, and Jim Hamilton for pre-mill. And I was super excited when they announced that, because I'd never really studied eschatology, and it was intriguing. I grew up reading all the kids left behind books and all that stuff. So I was excited to learn more about it. So I was front row for that at Bethlehem, taking notes in my 3-ring binder, and I didn't understand anything they were saying, because that was the first time I'd ever read about it. But so he introduced me, one of our mentors, the family, to postmillennialism, and lent me Chilton's book.
Paradise Restored?
Yeah, Paradise Restored.
Okay.
Yep. And I didn't actually read the whole thing, but that gave me a little sampling. And then, honestly, it sounds weird, but a lot of my beliefs now that I hold came from Facebook. It all really started out with CFDD, the non-kinist one. What is it?
Calvinism, Fellowship, Debate, and Discussion.
Yeah. So that was a lot. I saw the people who were prominent posters. I mean, I still remember Jonathan Williams, Rick Appleton, just these names that are out there that I just always saw speaking truth. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I don't even know if they're post-mill, but just with general Reformed things, I clung to people that who were smart and said smart things and had a lot of scripture to back it up, and let that kind of challenge me. In my personality, I'm a debater just by nature, and my wife has helped sanctify me, so I'm not so annoying and brash a lot. She's helped. But my thing is, I'll if someone comes at me with a new view like postmillennialism, and they'll say this and this and this, and I'll kind of argue from my perspective, and if it starts to make sense, I'll adopt that view, and then in these Facebook groups, I will start to argue. I'll start repeating these arguments back to the premillennialists and the amillennialists, and say this and this and this. What about this and this and this? And I'll just basically act like I'm a post-mill until I see where no one's able to refute it, or at least to what I consider to be, a good refutation. And then if no one can talk me out of it, then I kind of adopt it. That's kind of the way I do it. So
cool.
that happened with post-mill. That happened with a lot of different things. So it's been a fun progression. But Facebook has actually been super helpful.
Did theonomy come from those sorts of discussions as well?
Yeah, that came out of the pub, actually. Ironically, there's not a lot of discussion on theonomy in the pub. I think it was, I don't even remember offhand who were some of the first people that I saw talking about it. I mean, I know there's people like you, but you were later on, because I don't think you haven't been a theonomist for years or anything, right? I mean, it's within... You were a theonomist before you were
year and a half,
Baptist, right?
Maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it probably people like you, and Paul Barth is out there quite a bit, and I like a lot of what he has to say. And the whole theonomic crew. I basically just listen to what they say, and like I said, it makes sense. So I kind of argue that point, and when I see the other side not making good arguments, I'm like, well, maybe this seems to make sense. And then I kind of challenge myself. By if there's a good argument against it, I'll kind of look that up or send you a message. I will say just to clarify that theonomy has probably been the newest theological doctrine that I'm learning about. I still haven't read a whole lot about it. I'm not a huge reader, so I try to just stick to scripture arguments that people make. Not that there's anything wrong with reading books at all, by any means. I mean, obviously there's huge value, but I try to just look at what biblical support people give, and then a lot of quotes from both sides. But I probably wouldn't say I'm 100% a theonomist. I still got some questions about things, and how it all plays out, it makes more sense to me than the other side. So
Gotcha.
whether you want to call me a soft theonomist or what, but I'll usually argue for it. And then when someone gives me a good pushback, I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I'll look that up. So.
Cool. What about presuppositional apologetics?
Oh, man. I was such an evidentialist for years. When I first got into apologetics, right after I, went to Bethlehem and got into Calvinism, because I'm a debater, I'm all about apologetics, looking this stuff up. I listened to Stand to Reason I don't think I missed an episode for at least maybe like 3 years straight, which that's probably nothing compared to people who've listened to Greg Koukl for, a decade. But have you heard of Greg Koukl before?
Yeah.
So he's a really good, smart guy. I really like his philosophy of speaking to atheists, asking a lot of questions, clarifying questions, and making sure that the ball's in their court when it needs to be. So I was huge into evidentialism, and I'm like memorizing these things. Like, I need to remember these 3 questions. Like, oh, that was a good. When they ask me this question, I got to go back with this, and it's all these lists of things to remember, and so I listened to it all the time. And then I think it was somehow I got turned on to James White and the Dividing Line. And that's when I got introduced to presuppositional apologetics. And yeah, just that turned my world upside down. I went from memorizing William Lane Craig one-line answers to it's so much easier. Just being able to stick to the foundation, and doesn't mean you can't get to the nitty-gritty details when it comes down to it. And even like Sai said in our interview, there's always a place for evidence, but you start with presuppositional apologetics first. What are the presuppositions, and then just start there. So that came on. I think that came on before paedobaptism for me. That was probably as soon as I learned Calvinism, I got into apologetics, and then presup came, a couple years after that. But I really like philosophy, so that really, I clung to that really, really strong when I first heard about it. I watched a lot of videos and stuff, but I love just the foundation, just sticking with. It's so simple. You don't have to be a brilliant man who has all these minor details and facts memorized.
Yeah, and if you want to memorize millions of facts and details, good. Yeah. But apologetics is for every Christian, so that's pretty cool. There's your theological background. What do you do for a living?
I call myself I'm a digital marketer. So my day job, I'm a digital marketing specialist for an electrical distributor called Werner Electric. It basically, we're a big warehouse that sells things, and we're a lot more than that. That's kind of, obviously I'm on the marketing team, so we brand ourselves as the cheesy tagline, we deliver more than what's in the box. We're more than what we sell, other solutions and stuff like that. But basically anything that electricity runs through, we sell. So it can be something from a contractor, so light switches, conduit, wire, fuses, anything automation. That's probably more than half of our business is automation related. So PLCs, VFDs, robots, literally anything in that world. And then we do clean energy and wind, solar, all that stuff, and then datacom. Literally, if electricity runs through it, we pretty much sell it. So it's not the most glamorous industry, but it's fun. So I with the company, I manage our website. I do all our social media. We just started getting into videos once I came onto the team. So trying to do some videos on tutorials, how to do this, how to do that, explaining things, and then help with graphic design. So yeah, that's what I do full time, but I do a lot of side work too. I just like working on the computer. So I like doing strategy and thinking about how to do things well online. Build a lot of websites on the side. I manage 24 Facebook pages for Played Against Sports, just around the country, a couple in Canada. Yeah, anything digital marketing related, I do a lot of side work. So if anybody needs a website or even consulting, I'm happy to help. But yeah, it's fun stuff. I love it all. It keeps me busy. Not that my 3 kids don't keep me busy enough, but yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get into that? Was it something you were always fascinated with and you went to school for, or was it just something that you learned on your own and ended up doing from experience, or how did you get into that?
Yeah. I worked for my father-in-law maybe 4 years ago, and he just doing lots of different stuff for him. And he needed, I think he needed a website for something. And he was hiring this guy out. And it didn't look that great, I'll just be honest. It was, blue text, green headers, bright colors, just wasn't the greatest. It wasn't the greatest looking website. And I'm like, oh, this is not very good. Like, can I try to do something better? Like, there's got to be something else out there. And I didn't have any background in web design or anything. And he's like, well, yeah, sure, definitely. I'm already working for him, so if you can do it, do it. And so that's when I kind of got into teaching myself. I think I stumbled on WordPress, and there's a lot of stuff you can do there, starting with basic themes and tweaking things. So I mean, every time I would need to make a change, I would Google it. So I learned HTML and CSS through Google, just trial and error, and kind of starting to remember things and pick up on things. And you in general, as you work on stuff more and more, you see how things work. And I really enjoyed it. So while I was working for him, I basically just kind of taught myself how to do all that. And then, got into social media. Like, we should be on Facebook. So I started doing that. And we should be on Twitter. So we started doing that. Designing just print stuff, flyers. And that's not my forte. I'm not an artist by trade. Usually I can tell if something looks good or doesn't look good, but I like more the larger scale strategy and how things should be done and implemented effectively. But that's kind of how I got my start into it. I mean, I have a degree in business administration. I didn't go to school for any of that. But then so I did that for him for a couple of years, and then just wanted to change to do something different, and wasn't super interested in the healthcare field. So my buddy got me a job at Werner Electric. He was a delivery supervisor, and he's like, hey, I can get you a job as a delivery driver. I'm like, oh, sure, that'd be fun. So I delivered to job sites and electrician shops and all that kind of stuff, big businesses all over, for about a year. And that was how I got my foot in the door with that company. And then right away, pretty much like within a couple months of working there, I started doing their social media for them. They didn't really have anyone focusing on it. They were kind of doing a little bit here and there. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door with the marketing team. And then a year later, a position opened up, and my boss, my friend at the time, was super committed to helping me get into the marketing team because he knew that's what I wanted. But I couldn't get a job anywhere else doing it because I didn't have it on paper, a degree that I went to school for this. So I was able to show them, what I knew and what I could do. And they took a chance on me, and it worked out.
That's pretty cool. Yep. And so how many kids do you have? 3, you said?
3 kids, yes.
What are their ages and what are their names?
They are, we'll say, 5.5, 3 1/4, and 1.5.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, so the 5.5-year-old is Emery. She's our first. And then we have 2 sons after that, Declan and Oscar.
Those are pretty legit names. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we like them.
Yeah. Where'd you come up with those?
I don't quite remember with Emery. I knew, I knew of is it like a Christian metal band, Emery? Are they metal or just rock, whatever? I don't know. I've never actually listened to them, but so I knew of that, I don't know, word. I know there's Emory University, but I think my wife just came across it somewhere. It means home strength, and we really liked it, so we just stuck with that. Emery Esther is her name. And then Declan, my wife, her maiden name is Connor, so very Irish, and she wanted to have an Irish name, and we just had a big list and found Declan, and we really liked it. Found out that Elvis Costello's real name is Declan McGinnis, so that's a little fun factoid. But,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Declan James, and Oscar. That Oscar is my great grandpa's name. So
pretty legit. And so, how long have you guys been married?
Figured you were gonna ask this. Let's see.
He's got to count. Oh boy.
Yeah, I think like 7.5 years, 7ish.
You
yeah.
think?
I think April was 7.
Oh, bro.
Dude, we have kids.
This is not something that you forget.
2008. So
the wife is gonna hear about it. So you got married 2 years after I graduated high school.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, you're a youngin'.
not that much younger.
Yeah, you're not. I think I was 23. So yeah, not that far off. Yeah, but marriage is good. Mallory's my wife. She's wonderful and amazing and is fixing me every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's great. So she stays at home with the kids. So that's a huge blessing that, growing up, she grew up, her mom stayed at home and off and on, she has 4 other siblings. Off and on, they were homeschooled, and I'd never been exposed to the homeschool world. So when, I don't even know if we discussed it when we were engaged or still dating, about her staying at home. And, I'm like, whatever, yeah, sure, that's fine. But it's such a huge blessing. The couple days where I have to stay with the kids because she has stuff to do, or, oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how people do it. I'm like barely getting by. And then being productive and like doing things and teaching the kids. Oh man. So it's amazing though. I love being able to give our kids a solid foundation in our education. And even though it's, Emery's going to start kindergarten this year, it's still pretty early, but yeah, she's, I definitely am blessed to have her.
Cool. And how did you end up getting on the Dat Postmill team? Because I don't think I knew you.
No,
I don't think I knew you before we decided to start this.
Yeah, so I got added to a group Facebook message by Adam Moore, and it had Colin, Shaney, and John. And I'm like, I don't know any of these guys. I knew Adam. I knew Adam from the pub, and I helped him. I don't know how we got connected, but we got connected somehow in the pub and just became friends. He started Reformed and Reloaded. I helped him build his website, and I helped him with general things and strategy and branding and things like that, just for fun. So he messaged me one day and said, "Hey, how would you like to be on a podcast about postmillennialism?" I'm like, no. It'd be fun to be on a podcast, but I haven't studied it enough to be able to give helpful insight in any way. I can maybe talk about the basics of it, but I don't have it all, studied and memorized and whipping out scriptures and all that stuff. So I'm like, yeah, it sounds fun, but I don't think it's for me. Thanks. And then it was about maybe a month or two later when I got added to that group message, and I think it was because they needed a website. I think Adam was like, "Hey," I don't remember how the introduction went, but that's when we started discussing it. Last, was it like October or November or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. So he kind of threw me in. And was like, "Hey, we need some help with stuff." So I helped with just some of the the graphic work and built the website. And so now I do a lot of I like the back end stuff. So I handle all the the episode summaries and uploading the graphics and finding good blog posts. We're getting more people doing blog posts for us. So you have a couple, and then Jason Sanchez is like, "Hey, actually the other day by the time this comes out, it'll probably have been a couple weeks, but he just sent me a message like, "Hey, I was going to post this on Facebook today as a post, but let me know what you think of it. You want to use it on Dat Postmill?" And I read it, and it was the Dominion. Who are you doing Dominion for? Is it for you or for God? I'm like, yeah, this is awesome.
Nice.
So made that into a post. So I like finding stuff that we can put on the website as resources, and that's really what I really enjoy doing. Is if I have like a company or a brand, and just finding as many different ways as possible of how to make it engaging and making people want to go to the company or buy products or utilize the services or resources. So like with Dat Postmill, we put up the resources page so people can have links to all the books we recommend. Because I think about myself, if I was new in this and I just heard about this stuff, I'd be like, okay, this theonomy thing, what is this? And if you go to the pub or if you go to a Facebook group, you never know who you could get someone who's smart, you get someone who's just hates it and is jaded. You don't know what kind of stuff. It's a battle to try to find good information. So that's what I wanted for our resources page is theonomy. Here's books on it. Eschatology. Here's books on it. Even, we have a page, if you just search eschatology chart, I think it lists pre-mill, amill, dispensational, and post-mill. And it, fair, balanced, it's like Fox News, fair and balanced portrayal of each of them in books that support it.
Are you telling me that this is the no spin zone?
Yes. Yeah, post-mill, fair and balanced. Should change our tagline.
Quote unquote, no spin.
No spin. Yes, that you will notice, hopefully. But so yeah, I love taking a project and just coming up with new ideas of how I can make it better. And yeah, so definitely you guys keep going back to .postmill.com and look for new articles, new pages. We've got some prints up there actually that one person messaged us. I think it was one of the first posts on .postmill's Facebook page. Adam did, and it was a picture of honey with like the little wooden stick thing that you use to put honey and stuff. And it had I don't know the verse offhand about being sweeter than honey. And we got a Facebook message from someone who's like, "Oh, hey, my wife really likes that, and some of the other posts you guys have done, those pictures. Can you tell me where you got them, or can you send them to us? So we want to print them out and hang them up." I'm like, "Oh, that's a good idea." So, 10 months later, 8 months later, I finally got around to doing it. So I posted a couple on there where, obviously everyone hears that we need some support to help get some good hosting, so you can actually download our episodes in iTunes. We sell them for 99 cents, so you can go to PayPal via the link and pay 99 cents, and we'll email you the high-res PDF. You can print it out and hang it up in your house. So just stuff like that. I think it's fun to come up with new ideas of what we can do.
Pretty cool.
So if anyone has any ideas of...
So what Dustin omitted to say was that when we first added you to that group chat, you were like, no, I mean, I'll help with the background stuff, but I don't want to be on the show. And pretty much we were just like, no, you're going to be on the show. You don't have a choice. No, you don't. No, it's not negotiable. You're going to be on the podcast. And then it got to the time we were actually doing the first episode, and we're like, Dustin, are you ready? And he's like, are you guys serious about this? Like, and we're like, no, you're going to be on the podcast. And he's like, I don't have anything to say. I'm like, yes, you do. Come on the podcast.
Yeah. It was literally like, okay. So I went to my kitchen table with my laptop and earbuds. My wife was on the couch like 20 feet away. I'm like, okay, I guess I was so scared, man. I still try to not talk too much because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you on, man, because despite you thinking that you don't know things, you do, and it's nice to have you on. So,
well, I appreciate that.
So I'm sure everybody appreciates you a lot, especially the whole podcast thing.
Yeah, all the iTunes errors, people appreciate that. It never fails when we post the new episode on Facebook and you share it to like 400 different groups. It never fails that one of them, someone posts a screenshot of unable to download, and then you tag me. And I'm like, dang it.
Yep. Every time.
It's not working.
Every time. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, we just got to get better hosting. It'll happen when people give us money. So.
Yeah, Adam and I are in the process of figuring some stuff out. We're actually Adam and I are working on a different setup for our hosting so that iTunes doesn't keep trying to refresh the episodes and detecting a down site. But David, I'm going to butcher his name, McCookie, I don't know how to say it. He sent us a message and reached out and said, hey, I do some front-end web development work and work with Amazon cloud hosting. And so he offered to help us figure out a good solution through Amazon. And he's got his own podcast. Culture and Kingdom. Yeah, that's what it is. But so yeah, go check him out. But he's going to help us figure out a good setup through Amazon. It's supposed to be pretty cheap. And then eventually you will actually be able to listen to .postmill episodes whenever you want to. But yeah, we're working on that.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, so I'm on. You're stuck with me.
I like it.
And the ironic part of it is, I think I've only missed one. I think I've been on more than Adam, more than Shaney, and now probably more than John.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's fun.
Yep. You're here to stay. Sorry, bro.
Yeah. Till you kick me out.
It's not gonna happen. Cool. Was there anything else you want to tell us about you? What do you have any secret identities? Are you secretly a superhero at night, or do you masquerade as a vigilante occasionally? Or
I did not grow up watching any. I didn't read comic books. I wasn't into superheroes, any of that. So it's all still new to me. I feel like everyone knows everything about the Marvel universe, and Jovan comes on and is giving us these backstories of Batman versus Superman. I'm like, really? Like it's an actual plot, like from the comic books. I thought this was just like a Alien versus Predator. Oh, let's do Batman versus Superman. I don't.
Funny.
I seriously don't know anything. It's funny. So I there's no secret identity.
What are your hobbies? I mean, what do you do for fun?
You know what? Where I'm at in my life now, kids take up a lot of time, and they're a huge blessing. I love them. It's great. And where I'm at now is kids and family is the majority of my life. When the kids go to bed at night, that's when I guess my hobbies are digital marketing. I've always got my foot in some door. Does that make sense? I've always got my hand in some cookie jar. I don't know. I'm always doing something. Work, whether it's, helping out the pub. I helped them get their first website, reformpubcast.com. Get that set up, and Adam Moore and I do a lot of side projects. You'll see some more stuff probably in the future coming out of that. And just helping brothers out who are starting new ministries or new things. And I probably shouldn't say this because now I for sure have to do it, but I promised Jason Sanchez I'd help him with that post-mill report and Reconstructionist Radio websites, and it's been months, and I just been too busy to actually do it. But I will help him get set up. I like just helping friends out, and that's maybe to my downfall that I just offer to help everybody. But hobbies, I mean, I really like music. I like playing music and writing music. I'm not good at writing songs like words. I like just playing music, anything. Although I like rhyming. It's really weird. I like making up songs with my kids, whether it's teaching them biblical doctrines, who is in the Trinity, just little quirky, 5-second things that we can sing back and forth with the kids. I like doing that. And I used to I think I'm going to try to like poetry or raps or something. And everything that I would write comes out sounding like Dr. Seuss. I think I'm trying too hard. I'm trying to rhyme too hard. I have a bunch of stuff I've written. I'm like, maybe one day I'll go to someone who actually knows what they're doing, like maybe John, and be like, look at this. Is this can you do anything with this? Because I'm like, I love it. And I'm like, oh, I love this, but it's so cheesy that I will probably never let anyone see it, because I did do one for an arts night at my church maybe a year or two ago, where I kind of did it like a spoken word kind of thing. Just because, I don't know, I might as well, say it in public once, but it's fun. I really enjoy doing it, but I don't know if maybe I'll get into writing kids' books or something. I want to do a kids' Bible. I think that'd be cool. That would
be cool.
Make like a rhyming structure.
If you think that, if you're looking at it and you think that it comes out cheesy, maybe you should just shoot for cheesy. That sells books, bro. I mean, like Dr. Seuss, super cheesy.
It's true, yeah.
You said you play music. What instruments are you into?
So guitar is kind of my main instrument. That's what my first dive into music. I took guitar lessons. And then from that, I just kind of pick up on things. I never took lessons on piano. I like to chord here and there and just kind of dabble around and play around on that. And then, I don't know, drums. Anything I can get my hands on, I'll play. So I mean, I'm not super good, but it's.
You play drum set?
I like to, yeah.
Cool.
I would love to have a drum set, but
nice.
Maybe one day when we have a big enough house that I can have a separate room where when the kids are sleeping they can't hear.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
definitely.
It's just tapping all day long. I teach my kids to beatbox. That's my that's how I.
All right, let me hear your beatbox.
No, I'm not good at all.
Yes, you're going to do it.
The way I teach my kids is to say piece of cake. Piece of cake. It works for a 3-year-old. So it's hilarious.
That's pretty cool.
Hearing a 3-year-old, even, my 18-month-old, as soon as he starts hearing anything with the beat, he kind of like bobs back and forth. It's fun. No, I'm not like a good beatboxer at all.
So
I heard a guy in high school beatbox.
No, you got to do it. Cool. You got to do it.
Compared to yours, it's like
you made me Tuvan Throat sing. You're going to beatbox.
Only if you're is your girlfriend there? I forgot her name again. I keep forgetting.
Brooke.
Brooke. Okay, sorry, Brooke. Will she rap along if I?
No, she will not.
No.
No, you just have to do it.
No, it's not like good.
I don't care. You're gonna have to do it. He's gonna beatbox. She's coming back to listen.
Oh, great! Yeah,
All right, here we go.
It's not good at all. No,
I don't care.
It's what I do while a song is playing because I can't sing. So I got to do something along with it.
Okay,
so
you can sing. You choose not to sing, or because you don't think you sing well. There's a difference.
That's right. I don't sing well, and so instead of humiliating myself singing poorly, I beatbox poorly because less people hear it, and it's more socially acceptable to make noises like that than to just belt out singing. And then the kids like to do it. You really want me to just?
Yes, I really want you to beatbox. We're not wrapping this up.
Seriously, you're gonna laugh because it's anyone who tries it for the first time can do it better.
Ready, set, go.
Stuff like that.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Do it again.
It's literally different every time I do it. My buddy used to always do a like breathing in and breathing out on snare. I'm like, how do you do that? Like consistently with. I don't know. So every time it's different. And that's even offbeat. We're cutting this out, by the way.
All right. Next time that somebody's laying down some lyrics, you're going to be doing the beatbox for it.
That was good.
That was good.
No, it wasn't. It was
like,
offbeat.
no, it's done. Yeah, it was good.
I mean, how I started. The first time I ever heard someone beatbox in high school, he went. It was like. It was like the smallest, quietest, like didn't move his lips.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can do that. Is that beatboxing? And then you hear people like you who actually beatbox. You're like, oh, you have to like make more noises than that. So, yeah, I don't. It literally is different every time I do it. I don't do it in public. So we're gonna edit all that.
I'm gonna talk to John, and we're gonna make this happen anyway. So. That's all there is to it.
I mean, what I'll do is maybe I'll give some of my lyrics to John, then he can make them less cheesy, and then you can beatbox them. We'll do a collaborative effort on on all of our. Yeah. That's all I got. Not very interesting. It can't beatbox. Can I plug myself again? If anybody needs any digital marketing services, hit me up.
So without Dustin, we would not have a podcast, basically. So Dustin is definitely one of the backbones of the program. So love on Dustin. Go find him on Facebook and pester him about all of his digital media stuff because apparently he just loves helping people.
For free. No.
No.
I'm married now, so I do less free stuff because if I'm going to take time away from my wife.
It's going to be getting paid for it, yeah.
Right.
Cool. Well, you can find us on datpostmill.com. Follow us on Twitter at datpostmill.
One word, one L.
Yep, one word, one L. datpostmill. Find us on Facebook. The page is called datpostmill. It's 2 words on Facebook, isn't it?
It is. And so, yeah, there's a reason it is. So that's how Adam made it originally. But with Facebook, if you have over 200 likes on your page, you can only change the name once. We've thrown around the idea of potentially changing the name down the road just because it's some people like it, some don't. It's kind of trendy with the whole DAT thing, and some people don't like it because it's like, oh, you just point to all the good things that happen, and as if that's it just gets annoying to people on both sides. So yeah, we've thrown around the idea of changing the name, and when we do, I want to be able to keep the same Facebook page and not lose all our content. So we're leaving it dat space postmill for now until we do the one final change.
Pretty cool. Well, that's all I got. Hashtag datpostmill. See you guys next week.
I like that. Hey, Knox, I ain't know what you was doing, man, when you was doing all this, but another one. Let's go. Walk, talk, eat, drink, sleep, dream. Gospel. Wake, pray, read, dress, work, think. Gospel. Rest, fellowship, yes, church, hear, see. Gospel. Everything. Gospel. Everywhere.